Hello everybody, I am 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧. I am here to present a lecture on aggression. The main objective of this lesson is to understand the definition, nature and concept of aggression. It also tells you regarding the determinants of human aggression like social frustration, provocation, displaced aggression, media violence and heightened arousal. According to social psychologists, aggression is defined as a behavior that is intended to harm another individual who does not wish to be harmed. To determine if a certain behavior is aggressive, it is very important to understand the perception of intent. In other words, what looks like aggression from one point of view may not look that way from another, and the same harmful behavior may or may not be aggressive depending on the intent. For instance, a biker who accidentally hits a pedestrian would not be displaying aggression by our definition, because although the harm was done, there was no intent to harm, and not all intentional behaviors that hurt others are aggressive behaviors. A doctor might intentionally give a patient a painful injection of a painkiller, but the goal is to prevent further pain during the procedure. Now, I will be talking regarding the nature of aggression. According to social psychologists, aggressive behavior that intends to cause extreme physical harm such as death or injury is called as violence. Thus, violence is a subset of aggression. All violent acts are aggressive, but only acts that are intended to cause extreme physical damage such as murder, assault, rape and robbery are violent. Kicking someone hard on the face might be violent, but calling people's names would only be aggressive. Aggression can be distinguished into two fundamental types based on the type or level of intent that underlies an aggressive behavior. Instrumental or cognitive aggression is aggression that occurs with a lot of planning or intent and is determined primarily by the cognition and by minimal amount of impulsive emotion. Instrumental aggression is made to actually hurt someone to gain something, attention, monetary reward or political power. For instance, a criminal who hits a lady and steals her purse, and a terrorist who actually kills civilians to make a political statement are good examples of instrumental aggression. In contrast, emotional or impulsive aggression refers to aggression that occurs with only a small amount of planning or intent, and it is determined primarily by impulsive emotions. Extreme negative emotions in a person can lead to emotional aggression, causing mostly negative outcomes. For example, when Shubha yells at her boyfriend, this is probably emotional aggression. It is impulsive and carried out in the heat of the moment. However, it is difficult to distinguish between instrumental and emotional aggression, literally because all types of aggression are at least in part instrumental, because they serve some need for the perpetrator. Therefore, it is probably best to consider instrumental and emotional aggression not as distinct categories, but rather as endpoints of a continuum. Aggression can be verbal as well as physical. Therefore, using cuss words at a person is aggressive, just as hitting someone is. Physical aggression is aggression that involves harming others physically, for instance, slapping, kicking, stabbing or shooting them. Non-physical aggression is aggression that does not involve physical harm. Non-physical aggression includes verbal aggression like yelling, screaming, swearing and name calling. There is another type of aggression called as relational or a social aggression. It is mainly aimed at intentionally harming another person's social relationships. For example, by spreading rumors about another person, ostracizing others from one's friendship or giving others the silent treatment. I am now going to explain various theories of aggression proposed by famous psychologists in the world. For more than 70 years, many theories have been developed by researchers with the prime objective to explain why people engage in aggressive behavior. These theories, although unique, have also overlapped as new knowledge has modified an existing framework of aggressive behavior. The earliest influential theory from social psychology was the famous frustration aggression hypothesis. Frustration aggression hypothesis was proposed by Dollard in the year 1939, and it is the first systematic theory of aggression called as frustration aggression hypothesis. It suggested that the occurrence of aggressive behavior always presupposes the existence of frustration, and the existence of frustration always leads to some form of aggression. Although this theory enjoyed some empirical support, it quickly became very obvious that frustration does not always lead to aggression, and that not every act of aggression can be traced back to frustration. Frustration aggression hypothesis was revised to incorporate the possibility that frustrations can elicit responses other than aggression, like escape or to find another way to achieve a goal, and that inclination which will be acted upon is the one that best will reduce frustration. In this revised formulation, people learn through experience to respond to frustrations with aggressive or non-aggressive responses. Another famous theory proposed on aggression is the famous social cognitive theory proposed by 𝗪𝗏 Bandura, and he proposed that through observing and imitating others, that is through observation learning, social behaviors including aggression could be learnt. Using the concept of vicarious learning of aggression, Bandura showed that children were especially likely to imitate models that had been rewarded for behaving aggressively. According to the social learning theory, also later called as social cognitive theory, the way people mentally construct their experiences is crucial for understanding aggressive behavior. For example, after watching a person hit another, we do not blindly imitate the behavior, but we first decide how competent we feel to do the same, and we will make assumptions about what constitutes a normal way to respond when provoked by others. In this way, making inferences about observed aggression not only will increase the likelihood of imitating others, but it can also expand the range of situations to which that response might be generalized. There is considerable research support for social cognitive explanation of aggression. Another important theory of aggression is called as the excitation transfer theory, which was proposed by Mr. 𝗧𝗏 in 1979. According to the excitation transfer theory, arousal occurring in one situation can persist and intensify and occur in later unrelated situations in the form of emotional reactions. If two arousing events are separated by a short amount of time, arousal from the first event will add to the arousal from the second. For example, arousal generated by a noisy procession, that is the first arousing event on the road, can intensify feelings of annoyance or frustration produced by later delays at a toll gate, which is an example of a second arousing event. The another most important theory of aggression is called as information processing and script theories. The combination of computer availability and the growing dominance of cognitive approaches in psychology influenced researchers to conceptualize the acquisition of social behavior in terms of computer-like processes like inputs, outputs, and the processing of information, resulting in the emergence of two key theories of aggression: the social information processing theory of Dodge and also the script theory of Huysman. Social information processing theory explained that probability of aggressive behavior depends on the way people perceive the behavior of others and make attributions about their motives. A vital aspect of this theory is that the hostile attributional bias, a tendency to interpret ambiguous events such as being bumped in a corridor as being motivated by hostile intent. This bias has been extensively studied, has been found to reliably predict aggressive behavior. According to the script theory of aggression, aggression can be acquired through direct experience or observation learning that play an important role in influencing behavior. Once encoded in the semantic memory, scripts define situations and provide a guide for how to behave in them. In the script theory, aggressive behavior is said to occur when a person uses a script that includes behaving aggressively. The likelihood of aggression can increase if a person habitually uses aggression themed scripts and responds to conflicts in that way. Repeated usage of similar scripts makes these scripts more easily accessible to the mind and can be generalized to other situations. Another important theory of aggression is the cognitive neo-association theory. The cognitive neo-association theory emphasizes the role of neural connectivity in generating aggressive behavior. According to 𝗂𝗏, concepts, emotions, memories, and action tendencies are interconnected with the brain's associative neural network. Within the neural network, both aversive events that produce negative effect and resulting thoughts and feelings and behavioral tendencies are linked to both fight and flight tendencies. Consequently, the personality characteristics of the person and the situation determine which response set will eventually dominate. For instance, the dominant fight responses linked with anger are more likely to elicit aggression. Additionally, the theory suggests that a person can also moderate an aggressive impulse by making attributions about another's motive or thinking through the consequences of an aggressive response. Another important theory of aggression and also the latest theory of aggression is the general aggression model. The general aggression model is the latest and most comprehensive theory of aggression, which incorporates the biosocial cognitive model. According to the general aggression model, situational variables like frustration, provocation, and individual variables like traits, attitudes, and predispositions tend to overt aggression by influencing the person's present internal state, cognitions and effects, and also physiological arousal. This model has strong empirical support and can explain the widest range of aggressive behaviors, including those not based around aversive events or negative effect. Apart from the unifying previous models of aggression in the field of social psychology into a single framework, general aggression model also incorporates knowledge from other disciplines in psychology. I will now be explaining what are the various determinants of human aggression. Now, the first most important determinant of human aggression is the social frustration. Frustration is anything that blocks us from achieving a certain goal. It could be your mobile phone getting turned off during a very important call. Frustration is one of the most important and powerful causes of aggression. Frustration can arise from multitude of factors such as environmental or natural calamities, accidents, personal limitations, lack of aptitude, others, ill intentions. According to the frustration aggression theory, the probability of an aggressive response will increase when people perceive that their attempts towards a goal are being constantly thwarted. Frustration always leads to some form of aggression. Aggression always stems from some form of frustration. Although this theory enjoyed some empirical support, it quickly became obvious that frustration does not always lead to aggression, and not every act of aggression can be traced back to frustration. The frustration aggression theory was revised to incorporate the possibility that frustrations can elicit responses other than aggression. Example, to escape or to find another way to achieve a goal, and that inclination which will be acted upon is the one that will best reduce frustration. In the revised formulation, people learn through experience to respond to frustrations with aggressive or non-aggressive responses. Frustration is known to increase the tendency of human beings to aggress. The second most important determinant of aggression is provocation. Provocation by another person is the single greatest cause of aggression. However, indirect provocations like social exclusion, spreading rumors can also provoke aggression to make people become more aggressive. People who are criticized harshly are more likely to retaliate than those who experience gentle criticism. Surprisingly, not everyone reacts to provocation with aggression. This is because the relationship between provocation and aggression is influenced by several factors. The most important of all these factors is our attributions concerning provocation. For instance, when a person faces provocation that is understood to be intended, then he or she would certainly be aggressive. In contrast, when the cause of provocation is unintentional, the people react in far more subdued manner. Thus, attributions concerning reasons behind provocations actions play a very important role in determining the intensity of aggression. Provocation and aggression are so strongly linked that they appear to overpower even the gender differences. In aggression, generally men are more aggressive than women under neutral conditions. However, provocation leads to aggression for both sexes. Both men and women get angry when provoked, and anger reduces the impulse control. So, like testosterone and alcohol, provocation also leads to aggression through impeded self-control. There are three important types of provocation that lead to aggression. The first type is called as condescension, which is nothing but the expression of arrogance or disdain on part of the others, and the second is called as harsh and unjustified criticism. Harsh and blunt and unjustified criticism, especially criticism that attacks us rather than a behavior. And then we have teasing, provoking statements that point to an individual's defects and imperfections. Teasing can range from mild jovial remarks and humorous nicknames to comments that are designed to hurt and humiliate others. Displaced aggression is the process of distracting hostility away from the source of frustration or anger and towards either the self or a different entity. For an example, when circumstances do not allow for direct confrontation with the responsible entity because it is perceived as too powerful to attack. For example, since a child is forbidden from expressing anger towards his parents, he can easily release his feelings of anger by changing the object towards he has to express anger. That could be done in the form of breaking a toy or tearing a paper. In the form of learning to displace feelings, the aggressive person selects a new target which shares similar features to the original target. The similarity is often more symbolic than real. For example, a child may actually show his anger towards his brother, but the anger is supposed to be shown towards the mother. A vital aspect of displaced aggression is that the chosen substitute target is one that is not capable of any retaliation for the aggression. Displaced aggression allows the person to maintain the relationship with the original object of anger while releasing his feelings of anger in a safer, anxiety-free surroundings. Media violence. Media violence in the form of aggression on TV, playing violent video games and violent pornography is one of the most studied phenomena by social psychologists in the current world. Violent media exposure is known to increase the likelihood of aggressive behavior and causes desensitization to violence in both short term and long term. There has been many instances of people committing violent copycat crimes such as assault, rape and murder in almost identical fashion to portrayals in films and TV programs. According to the social learning theory, media violence has a very powerful effect on the children who will readily imitate the behavior of a model which is reinforced for aggressing or at least escapes punishment. In addition, heightened exposure to media violence has been linked to increase in aggressive thoughts and feelings, hostile biases in thinking and decrease in empathy and pro-social behavior. There are several factors which influence the relation between media violence exposure and aggression, such as the priming of aggressive thoughts and weakening of restraints against aggression and desensitization to the violence. After exposure to the violence, violence is activated in the memory and becomes ready to guide one's subsequent thinking and results in aggressive behavior. Continuous exposure to media violence significantly changes how our brain responds to events that occur to us. Frequent exposure to media violence primes aggression and normalizes it. It also makes aggressive behavior more plausible. In a world filled with violence, people can become more distrustful and also might behave very aggressively in response to conflict. Another important determinant of aggression is heightened arousal. Physiological arousal and emotional arousal are both linked with increased aggression regardless of the source of arousal. According to the excitation transfer theory, arousal occurs in a situation, can persist and intensify and occur in a later unconnected situation in the form of an emotional reaction. For example, the arousal generated by a noisy procession on the road can intensify the feelings of annoyance or frustration which is produced by later delays at a toll gate. There are several factors which influence the relationship between heightened arousal and aggression. Firstly, arousal strengthens the tendency of a person to aggress impulsively rather than think through the consequence of the aggressive action. Secondly, higher levels of arousal creates feelings of unpleasantness and can elicit aggression in the same way as other unpleasant experiences. Thirdly, arousal may be part of a fight or flight response system that circumvents rational thought process and propels aggressive action. Fourthly, arousal may be cognitively labeled resulting from anger, thus causing the person to feel and act angry. Excitation transfer may compound this effect, leading to a disproportionately aggressive response. However, lower levels of arousal may facilitate aggression if people lack the energy and motivation to inhibit aggressive impulses. I would now like to summarize what we have learned so far in the chapter. We have first learnt what is aggression, its definition, its nature, its causes. We have also learnt what are the various theories of aggression and how psychological research on aggression has changed over the years. According to the excitation transfer theory, neutral physiological arousal is transferred onto arousal resulting from frustration, thereby increasing negative effect and resulting in the enhancement of the strength of aggressive response. Cognitive neo-associationist model explains that aggressive behavior is the result of a negative effect that is subjected to cognitive processing and results in the activation of network of aggression related thoughts and feelings. The social information processing theory suggests that negative effect caused by a range of adverse stimuli such as frustration, pain or noise is an important trigger for a selective information processing that enhances the probability of an aggressive behavior. Script theory also employs an information processing model and suggests that people behave aggressively when they use aggressive scripts, that is abstract representations of how and when aggressive behavior should be enacted. The general aggression model integrates the diverse psychological theories of aggression into a common framework and explains how personal and situational input variables lead to aggressive behavior via the cognitive appraisal and negative affective arousal. Frustration does not always lead to aggression. Frustration is a strong elicitor of aggression only when under certain limited conditions. Provocation, among others, is one of the most powerful elicitor of aggression. Even mild teasing can stimulate aggression, although such effects are stronger in certain cultures than others. Displaced aggression is a tendency to respond to frustration with an aggressive response directed not only at the original source of frustration but at an unrelated, more easily accessible target. And finally, we even learnt what are the situational determinants of aggression like frustration, provocation and also heightened arousal along with media violence.